Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Today I'm going to show you how to make a table runner. We're going to use a cozy quilt design pattern, and it's called Diamond Medley. The first thing we need to make the table runner is we need some 2.5-inch strips, and we only need 10 of them. So we have some little poppies. Those are little packages of strips that are in a color coordinated group, and they all match. Now we need a light and a medium and a dark fabric to match. So I think this will look really nice with that for the light. And then I want a little more color. I'm thinking this one for the medium, and then let's get a really dark for the outer border. Now for the dark, I'm going to use this one. It's colorful, but it's dark enough for a really nice border. So let's take all this, get it cut, and start sewing. Here's all the nice, dark, colorful strips that we have here. Now these are going to be up against the light and the medium, so we're going to make sure we pick 10. It'll be no problem here that all have some contrast between these two. So we could really pick any of these out. Now your strip set may have a variety of colors. You just want to make sure they will all show up against these two colors. The last print we're using over here is going to be going on the outside border, and that will frame it very nicely. Now, because this is not my pattern, I can't give you all the exact sizes, but I'm going to go ahead and get everything cut up, and then I'll show you how to sew it. I have all of the pieces for the runner cut up. We're going to make 2 different blocks for this runner. So here's the first block. We're going to start with a light, and I've got these pieces paired up. So we're going to put, that one's going to go there, that's going to go there. Some light accents. Now you notice the pieces don't fit exact because I don't have my seam allowances stitched yet. Then we're going to get a pair of these longer ones, one here and one here. Let's take that over to the machine and stitch it up. We're going to start at the center here, stitch these 2 pieces together. We're always going to use a 1/4 inch seam and stitch very carefully. I'm going to be pressing everything away from the center, and that happens to be towards the dark print right here. It won't always, but it is there. Now we're going to stitch this onto here. And this piece will fit on there exactly if you use a 1/4 inch seam. Again, let's press away from the center. Now we'll add this piece. Still going to press away from the center. That means I'm pressing towards the light, but that's okay. The block will lay flatter if we do everything away from the center. Now we'll put this piece on. I'm just going to turn it around. So remember to turn it back around before we sew the next piece on. So make sure you've got it oriented correctly. Now this piece is going to go on next. Now let me show you something about the batiks. Sometimes you can tell what's the right and what's the wrong side of the batik. I can on this one because there's those little spots, and those are on the back side. Now this particular print here, the back and the front look almost exactly the same. So our rule is if you can't tell, it doesn't make any difference. But if you can tell, like on this one, that that's the back, then make sure you put right sides together when you do your patchwork. The first block is done. To make the second block, here is what we need. all these little pieces. That'll be in the corner. Then we're going to use the medium pieces here, and then a pair of these here and here. Of course, it won't look so messy when we stitch it together. Remember when you're sewing really little patchwork pieces like this, that you really need to be accurate. It doesn't show so much if you've got bigger pieces, if you're off a slight bit. But on these little ones, it really shows if you're off 1/8 of an inch. You're not even going to be able to get them together. It's always important when the blocks are stitched to iron them nice and flat. So even though I finger pressed as I stitched, I want these completely flat because it'll make stitching the runner together much, much easier. The layout is pretty simple. We're going to put these 3 blocks facing that way in the middle of the runner. Then we're going to take the same block, turn it around, I might put that one there. I like to lay them out, then fill in with these blocks, and then I might switch things around so the runner's balanced. So now this other block just faces like that, and it makes a nice little pattern right there. So that's looking really good, and all we have to do now is fill in with the corner triangles. These just fill in the sides here. Look how nice that's looking. So once I have everything laid out, you don't have to put all the corners in, but once I have all the blocks laid out, then I'm going to look and see if my colors look balanced. So this block here is kind of prominent. So I'm probably going to put this right here. I'm just going to switch these, and then I'm going to stand back and look, see if my colors look even and balanced. You don't want too much of a prominent color all on one end because the runner won't look balanced. Now that all the blocks are laid out and I've done all of my switching and trading around so that I'm happy with where all the dark prints are, I'm ready to sew the rows together. So the first row looks like that. So we're going to sew this into a row, and then we're going to trim off that dog ear. I have finger pressed the rows the direction that the pattern told me to do, and basically this row is going to be pressed that way, this row is going to be pressed that way, and that'll make it easy when we connect our rows so that everything will nest. So if you follow the pattern carefully, and when it tells you to press your seams a certain way, and you do that, it'll make each step go easier as you go. Here's the next row. I'm going to stitch it together, lay it back down, and do that with all the rest of the rows. Each row is finished now. And before I stitch these 2 rows together, I'm going to want to trim off this extra large dog ear here. So I'm just going to use some scissors, but you can take this over to your cutting board and use your rotary cutter. Now I can stitch these rows, match up the intersections, and finish the rest of the runner. Now that the rows are all stitched together, you do want to iron it very carefully. So when you put it on your ironing board, remember you've got to flatten it out with the grain of your prints, which is on the diagonal of the runner. So you want to smooth it out flat with your hands first, then start ironing. And remember, iron in the direction of the grain. That way the runner will stay flat. You won't get anything stretched and wavery along the edges. Now that everything is ironed nice and flat, I'm going to trim off some of the excess here so it's nice and straight. Then I'm just simply going to add a little blue on each end and a little bit of the dark all the way around, and then we'll be ready to quilt it. The runner turned out nice and big. This would look really nice on a dining room table, a coffee table, even a bed runner. Really, really fun to make. You may have noticed when I was laying it out, I had a block or two turned the wrong way. Now I caught it before I finished it, and so that's a good tip. Always double check that your blocks are laid out, then check it again before you quilt it. Really fun pattern. I love how these extra big squares make almost what looks like a border there without having to add anything extra. Really, really fun to make. It's 29 by 63 inches and just a joy to sew. Thanks for watching our tutorial today on how to make the Diamond Medley table runner. If you'd like to see more of our videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Happy quilting!